Let's flip this ish. Today, I'm turning my Levi's into this super cute two-piece, so let's get started. I'm going to start off by removing all of my belt loops and also removing my waistband. Next, I'll place a clip at the top of my jeans so they don't move, and I'm going to mark a line going across right below that bottom button, and then I will flip my jeans over and realize I forgot to take the pockets off, so I'll take off the back pockets and then flip them back to the front and bring my pockets up so I do not cut through my pockets, and then I'll just cut across that line going through the front and the back of the jeans. Now I'm going to measure from side seam to side seam on the front of my skirt, and I'm going to mark that on a piece of paper, and I'm also going to repeat that to the back of my skirt. Next, to make it easier to cut my pieces, I'm going to cut my jeans all the way along the center seam, and then I'm going to cut them on the side seams to have two large leg pieces. So I made two long rectangles for the front and the back using the measurements I made, plus 2 inches for the top length, and then I went down 6 inches, and then to the bottom I added a 1/2 inch to each side, and that's how I got the bottom length. This is what the first skirt that I made looked like, and I know it looks kind of cute with its top stitching, but I just wasn't really digging it, so I changed it to a pleated skirt. I cut an extra inch off the front and kept most of the length in the back of the skirt. Moving on to making my pleats, I'm going to take 2 extra pockets from previous projects that I had, and I'm going to take out all the threads and just press out the pockets so they are laying flat. Here are what my front and back pieces look like. Don't mind the fact that I added 4 pockets because I only needed 2. Working with my front piece, I'm going to fold it in half and mark the center, and then I'm going to begin making pleats from the center that are about 2.5 inches wide, and they're going to all be facing towards the back of the skirt. Once I finish pleating my front and back pieces, I'm going to connect them along one side seam so that it is one long piece. Then I'll take that to my sewing machine and do a row of stay stitching. Once I finish my stay stitching, I go ahead and press all of my pleats and also sew the second side seam so the pleats are one long circle. Now I'll take my pleats and place them right sides together along the bottom edge of my main skirt piece and sew that in place at 1/4 of an inch. Once I'm done, I'm going to flip my skirt to the right side, and this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to press my seam allowance towards the bottom of my skirt. Now I'm going to finish off my skirt with a row of top stitching to keep the pleats in place. Moving on to my corsets, I have all of my pattern pieces, and I'll link the tutorial on how I made this below, but I'm going to cut all those out with my denim fabric and then with my lining fabric, 2 of each piece. For my back piece, since this is going to be a front lace up, I'm going to trace around it and then flip it over and trace around it again so it is one big piece and doesn't split down the center. And here are all of my pattern pieces cut out. Now to assemble your corset, you're going to take each piece and place it right sides together along each of the seams and sew them at 1/2 of an inch seam allowance. And you'll just continue that with all of the pieces, including the lining. Once I've sewed all those pieces together, to complete my back panel, I'm going to place it along one of the edges, right sides together, and sew that down, and then place the other side of the corset on the other half of the back panel and sew that at 1/2 of an inch. Once everything is sewed together, I'm going to press all of my seam allowances towards the center back of my corset. Here's what everything looks like once it's done getting pressed. Now I'm going to go in and cut my original boning for each of the seams. Once that's done, I'm going to take my lining and place it right sides together along my main corset, and I'm going to sew it along the front seams at 1/2 of an inch. Once that's done, I'm going to flip everything to the right side and press those 2 seams that I just sewed. Now I'm going to do a row of top stitching right along the edge and then a 1/2 inch away from that line. Once that's done, I'm going to repeat that same top stitching technique to all of my other seams. Moving on to my binding, I cut a long strip that was about 1.5 inches wide, and I'm going to go ahead and serge along the top edge. Now I'm going to take the edge of my binding that is not serged and place it right sides together along the bottom of my corset, and I'm going to fold the corners when I sew them so they create a nice clean finish. Now I'm going to take my binding and fold it down and press it, and then fold it again towards the back and press it, and then I'm going to do a row of stitching right along the seam. Once that's done, I'm going to put in all of my boning pieces and finish the binding from my top edge. Moving on to my cups, I just did a quick little drape with a dart in the center, and I just made my line curved up a little bit, but I ended up curving it down a little bit more from here, but not making it perfectly like a straight line across. I gave it like some room at the top. Now I'm going to take my cup that I draped and transfer it to paper. I'm going to complete the dart and then go over all the lines with my tracing wheel, and then I'm going to go over all of the little lines on my paper with my pencil, and then I am going to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance along all of the sides. I also cut out my darts so it's easier to trace. Now I'm going to take my pattern piece and trace it onto my denim, making sure to mark my dart, and then I'm going to repeat that onto my lining fabric so I have a shell and a lining. Now I'm going to place my lace on the right side of my cup and sew a line of stay stitching along all of the edges. Once that's done, I'm going to cut away all the excess lace, and then I'm going to flip my piece to the wrong side and do my dart. Once my cup is complete, I'm going to repeat the dart to the lining on the wrong side of the fabric. Once I have completed both darts, I'm going to trim them and press them open. Now I'm going to place my lining right sides together onto my cup and sew along the top edge at a 1/4 inch. Once that's done, I'm going to open up my cup and I'm going to press my seam allowance towards my lining and do a row of top stitching. Once that's done, I'm going to press the top edge of my cup. I've attached my first cup, and now I'm going to show you guys how I attach my second cup. You're going to place your cup right sides together along your corset and sew it at a 1/4 inch, and as you're sewing, you're going to have to turn it so that it makes that nice curve. This is the trickiest part, so go slow and take your time. Once I've attached both of my cups, I'm going to begin marking and putting in my eyelets 1 inch apart, and I'm going to use 10 in total on both sides. I went ahead and added straps and added strings into my eyelets to finish off my corset, and if you'd like, you can add underwire to your cups, but I didn't have any underwire for mine, so I just did a row of top stitching to give it the same effect. And here's the completed thrift flip. It is so cute. I literally am in love, and this corset is amazing. If you guys want to see the photo shoot, check out my Instagram link below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you on my next video. Bye.